Welcome back once again to Solid Gold. In today's video, I want to give you guys an update on my 3 axolotls. You might remember that I got them a month and a half ago from a viewer named Anna. She's not a breeder or anything like that. She just happened to have a small batch of axolotls. She reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in taking a few of hers. So long story short, I got 3 of them. If you missed that unboxing video, I'll put a link to it right up here, so definitely go check that out. When I first got them and had done that unboxing video, their tank was still pretty barren, pretty sparse, and I had planned on adding some hides and fake plants and other things that they would need. And now that they've been comfortable in their home for a little while, I want to give you guys a little update about them and show you what I've added to the tank. First, I want to talk about the tank setup. They are living in one of my 40-gallon breeder aquariums. I have 4 of these and they're stacked one on top of the other. I found these stands at Lowe's, and you can probably find them at your local Lowe's as well. They are called the Axolotl stands. I didn't show a lid in the unboxing video, and a few of you guys commented that axolotls will need a lid. They did have a lid, I just didn't show it in that video. It's really important that axolotls do have a lid over their aquarium because they are known to jump. Now you can use a mesh lid if you want, or a glass lid. What I have on mine is a glass lid. As far as lighting goes, I usually actually don't have a light on this aquarium at all. Axolotls prefer not to have bright lights over their tank. I don't have a light over most of the tanks in my fish room anyway, just for economic reasons. It would be too expensive to have a light over every single one of my tanks out there, and so the axolotl tank, I'm not treating it any differently, and it's just an added bonus that they don't really like bright lights anyways. Just for this video, I did put one of my spare aquarium lights over this tank so that you guys could see them better in the photos and video. My axolotls also have sand substrate. It's made by Carib Sea. I'll put a link in the description section below if you want to check it out for yourselves too. I love Carib Sea sands. I just think they are some of the best aquarium sands out there that you can find, and I use them pretty much anytime I want to use substrate in my aquariums. Since you last saw the axolotl aquarium, I have added 2 fake plants. I don't remember the brand name. I've also added 2 hides that are fake logs. Surprisingly, it is extremely hard to find a nice quality and just a really simple fake sinking log ornament for an aquarium. I looked everywhere I could think, and I could not find one that looked the way I wanted it to, and also looked like it was smooth without any rough jagged parts on the inside. Like, it was just ridiculously hard to find this ornament. I thought it would be the most basic, the most simple ornament that people would want for their aquariums, but apparently not, because it was really hard to find a good one. Finally, as a last-ditch effort, I was making a second round through my local Petco, and I just happened to look in their reptile enclosures, and they had this really nice, really simple fake log in all of their enclosures, and I was like, oh my gosh, if they have this in their enclosures, they probably sell it too. So I scoured the shelves and finally found one. I was a little bit unsure if it was going to sink or not, and if it did sink, if it was going to hold up or if it was going to dissolve over time, but I tried it out and it's perfect. They only had 1 in stock, and so I waited a week and I went back again and they had 1 in stock again, so I grabbed that one too. So I've got 2 of these fake logs in the aquarium, and the axolotls really seem to like them. I think just them knowing that they have the hides available to them and also having the fake plants providing some cover, it makes them more comfortable being out and about in the aquarium too. Axolotls don't like a lot of water current in their environment, so in this tank I just have 1 sponge filter running. Sponge filters are what I use to power my entire fish room. All of the aquariums in my fish room are powered by just simple sponge filters. The sponge filter provides really good biological filtration for the aquarium, which means it converts the ammonia that the axolotls produce into nitrite and then nitrate, which is the end product of the aquarium nitrogen cycle. It also creates some surface movement, so there's going to be bubbles breaking the surface of the water and allowing the dissolved oxygen in the aquarium to remain at a high level. And it does all of this without creating a high high current in the aquarium, which is perfect for the axolotls. Temperature is always a concern because they prefer to stay around a temperature of about 66 degrees Fahrenheit. You really don't want to go above 70 degrees for axolotls, and anything above 75 is definitely a cause for immediate concern. Since my axolotl aquarium is located pretty low, pretty close to the concrete floor, it actually has stayed relatively cool, especially when you consider how hot it's starting to get outside here in Florida. It stayed around 67 degrees, which I was really surprised about. My plan was to move them inside here once it started getting too warm out, but now I don't think I want to do that. I really don't want any loud bubbling sponge filter noise inside of my house. I kind of want a little bit of separation between my personal living space and my fish room and all the noises and, you know, all of the stuff that goes along with the fish room. So I'm gonna get a chiller so I can leave them outside in my fish room and keep them at a consistent temperature of about 66 to 68 degrees all summer long, even here in hot Florida. Now we get to talk about the fun part, which is feeding. In the beginning, I was just feeding them with the salmon pellets because it's what I had, but I always had the intention of getting some worms for them to eat too. Personally, I didn't really like the salmon pellets only because they're so small and the axolotls have really bad vision. It's hard to get them to see the food and eat it properly. I've seen online that some people put a little feeding dish inside of the aquarium and teach their axolotls to come eat from the feeding dish. Since I have 3 axolotls, I think it would be kind of hard to make sure all 3 of them get the appropriate amount of food if they're all eating from the same dish at the same time. So to feed pellets to my axolotls, I would just kind of hand feed. I would wave the pellet around above their head until they noticed that I was there with the food, and usually at that point they look up and start like trying to crawl or swim upwards towards me. It's pretty cute when they do that. Also a little scary because I'm scared they're gonna bite my finger. But then I would have to strategically position the pellet so that when I dropped it, it would fall pretty much right on top of their head, because that's the only way that they had any hope of eating it. They would miss so many times. They would see a shadow and they'd snap at it thinking it was the food, or they'd see my finger and they'd snap at it thinking it was the food. And then when the pellet actually falls to the floor of the aquarium, there's pretty much no chance that they're gonna eat it at that point because it doesn't move around, so they really don't see it to realize that it's food. I've seen the axolotls like try to chew on and then spit out pieces that are a little bit too big, and I think that they prefer soft food like a live worm over a hard pellet. Now if you're a little bit squeamish about worms and stuff, please skip ahead because in the following clip I'm going to be cutting up earthworms and you might not like that very much. So a couple of weeks ago I got nightcrawlers to feed my axolotls and I cut them up into thirds. I'm not sure if they could handle an entire worm because I haven't tried feeding them an entire worm without cutting it up first, but I don't think they could because seeing how much they struggle sometimes with even just 1/3 of a worm, I think an entire worm would be a little bit too much for them. So what I do is I cut the worm into thirds and I give each axolotl 2/3 of a worm every other day or every 3 days or so. Now I've been feeding them mainly just with worms, and every once in a while I'll give them pellets, but actually since I got the worms I haven't given them any pellets except for today when I was filming this video so you guys could see how they eat the pellets versus how they eat the worms. Based on how much more excited they get about the worms than they do the pellets, I do really think that they prefer the worms better. Even though this is gonna make me sound a little silly, they kind of scare me during feeding. I mean, I know they're not gonna hurt me because they have like a sandpapery mouth. They have, I think, tiny little nub teeth that just feel like sandpaper if they actually bite you. When they snap up their food, they move so incredibly fast, and it's really unpredictable how they move too, and they always mistake my finger, the tweezers, heck, even my entire hand for the food, and they try to snap at me and eat me. It doesn't help that I've also heard that once they latch onto your finger, it's really tough to get them to let go, and sometimes you just end up having to like walk them around the aquarium while they're stuck to your finger, just like, come on little guy, let go. That doesn't sound pleasant to me. Overall, now that I've had my axolotls for about a month and a half, I can say that I think they're a really fun, relatively low maintenance pet, and I definitely think that they're a fun and good addition to my fish room. I really like interacting with them and feeding them. Every time I look at their silly, weird looking, cute faces. It brings a smile to my face, and I just like having them around. I do think that because of their temperature requirements, because they like it so cool, they like it about 66 to 68 degrees, they maybe aren't the best pet for someone who's just beginning with aquatic pets. Unless you happen to live in a climate that's a little bit cooler, and maybe you have a basement that's a little bit cooler than the rest of your home, could actually be an okay environment for an axolotl. In that case, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you live in a warm climate like I do, and here in Florida, nobody really has basements, so it makes it a little bit more tough, and probably a chiller is necessary at that point. Because of that, and because chillers are so ridiculously expensive, I don't know that axolotls are a very good beginner aquatic pet for everybody. Other than that, they're actually relatively low maintenance and super fun to have. Remember that in celebration of recently reaching 100,000 subscribers here on Solid Gold Aquatics YouTube channel, I am doing a special limited time, limited edition release of the Solid Gold Aquatics logo t-shirt with a little note that says thank you for 100,000 subscribers, love Jenny. They're only going to be available for 12 more days after today. They're only available through May 3rd, and then after that, that's it. They're never going to be available again. So if you want one, definitely get in on it now. I'll put a link for those t-shirts down in the description section below, so check that out. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, stay gold.